Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're looking way up at obelisks.
Ah, yes, those really iconic structures, tall, four-sided, usually tapering up to a sort of pyramid shape at the very top.
Exactly. And when you think obelisk, you often picture something ancient, carved from one single giant stone.
Right, the classic monolithic idea. And lots of the really old ones were just that, which is frankly incredible engineering for the time.
Totally incredible.
Yeah.
But it's interesting, modern ones aren't always like that. They could be built from multiple stones, sometimes even have, rooms inside.
Yeah, the form itself has just endured, hasn't it? People keep building them. Even if the methods change, that shape just resonates.
It really does. So for you listening, if you're keen to get up to speed on fascinating things quickly, this is for you. We're doing a bit of a world tour.
A highlight reel, you could say.
Yeah, of 10 really awesome obelisks. We'll hit the key facts, the history, what makes them stand out.
Without getting totally lost in the weeds. Just the really cool stuff.
Precisely. Our mission today, let's explore these stone giants and figure out what makes them so, well, awesome. So, where are we starting this tour?
Let's kick off with maybe the most famous one, at least in the U.S., the Washington Monument in D.C.
Ah, okay, the big one.
The biggest, actually. It's the world's tallest obelisk and the world's tallest stone structure overall, over 555 feet high.
Wow,
Yeah.
it's seriously tall.
Mm.
And it dominates that DC skyline.
It really does. But interestingly, going back to what you said earlier,
It's not monolithic.
exactly, it's actually built from marble, granite, and bluestone, a composite structure.
So a bit different from the ancient Egyptian model then. Why was that? Just because it's so huge?
Partly, yeah. Building something that tall from one piece of stone would have been, well, probably impossible with 19th century tech, and quarrying such a massive single block.
But logistics would be a nightmare.
Absolutely. So using multiple pieces, drawing on different materials, that was the way to achieve that height and, make it stable. It's sort of a blend of that ancient form and more modern construction.
And it took a while, didn't it? I remember reading that.
Oh, yeah. Construction started way back in 1848, but then there were delays. The Civil War happened. It wasn't finished until 1884.
Decades. That's quite a commitment, and now it's just such a symbol.
Undeniably. Of Washington, of the U.S. itself.
Okay, so from the relatively modern back to the truly ancient, let's head over to Vatican City.
St. Peter Square.
That's the one. There's an Egyptian obelisk standing right there in the middle of it, and this one is old, like 4,000 years old.
4,000. Okay, wait. How did an ancient Egyptian obelisk get to the Vatican?
Well, it first got to Rome. Emperor Augustus had it brought over from Egypt. Imagine that journey.
Seriously, in Roman times, that must have been epic.
A monumental task,
Yeah.
literally.
Yeah.
Then, much later in 1586, it was moved again to its current spot right in front of St. Peter's Basilica.
And this one is monolithic.
Yes, this one's the real deal. Single piece of stone. It's about 25 meters tall, so not as huge as Washington's, but still very impressive.
And wasn't there some weird story connected to it? Something about Julius Caesar? Ah, yes. You're thinking of the gilt ball. For ages, during the Middle Ages, people believed that a golden ball on the very top held Julius Caesar's ashes.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Did it?
Well, when they eventually took it down to check, nope. Completely empty.
So much for that theory. A bit awkward.
Just goes to show how myths can sort of attach themselves to these ancient, mysterious objects,
Definitely. Okay, from Rome,
Uh-huh.
where to next? Paris.
Let's go to Paris. Place de la Concorde, the Luxor obelisk.
Ah, the one with all the hieroglyphics.
That's it. Beautifully decorated. It tells its own ancient stories right there on the stone. This one was actually a gift.
A gift. From who?
From Egypt to France, back in the early 19th century. They finally got it erected there in Paris in 1836.
And it looks amazing in that huge square. Is it monolithic too?
Yep, another solid piece, about 23 meters high, so roughly 75 feet, and weighs over 250 metric tons.
Wow. That's hefty.
It is, and it originally came from the Luxor Temple in Egypt. It was one of a pair that stood at the entrance.
One of a pair, so there's another one.
There is. Its twin is still standing right there at the Luxor Temple. We'll get to that one later. But this Paris one, it also gets called Cleopatra's Needle.
Oh, right. I've heard that name. Isn't there one in London and New York too?
Exactly. There are 3 obelisks known by that name. This Paris one in London, one in New York. We'll touch on the New York one soon.
Okay, cool. But before New York, let's jump continents again.
Let's head south. Buenos Aires, Argentina. The Obelisco de Buenos Aires.
Right, the one in the middle of that big avenue.
Plaza de la República, yeah. This one's much newer, built in 1936.
So, 20th century. Not ancient Egyptian this time.
No, this is a modern monument. It's made of concrete and faced with Olenane white stone from Cordoba, but it's definitely a major symbol of the city, a national historic monument.
And it's pretty tall too, isn't it?
It is 67.5 meters, so quite prominent. It really shows how that obelisk shape kept its appeal, even using modern materials.
Yeah, it's a classic form. Okay, back to Europe. Seems like Rome has a few more for us.
Oh, Rome is loaded with them.
Huh.
Next up, the Lateran obelisk.
Lateran. What's special about this one?
This one holds a world record. It's the tallest standing monolithic obelisk anywhere.
The tallest single stone one still standing. How heavy are we talking?
Get this, 455 tons.
Whoa. Okay, that's just mind-bending. How did they even move that in ancient times?
It beggars belief, honestly. It was shipped from Egypt, like the Vatican one, and put up in the Circus Maximus way back in 357 AD.
Circus Maximus, sort of where the chariot races were.
Exactly. But its story gets even more dramatic.
Oh, how so?
Well, at some point, it fell and broke, and then it got buried over time, lost for centuries.
No way. So how is it standing now?
It was rediscovered in 1588, believe it or not, dug up, repaired, and moved to its current location near the Lateran Basilica.
That's incredible. From Egypt to Roman spectacle to being literally lost and found. What a history.
Tells you something about how much people valued these things, right? To go to the trouble of finding and restoring it.
Absolutely. Okay, you mentioned Cleopatra's Needles earlier.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the New York one.
Right, so one of the three named that. This one's in Central Park.
And again, just to be clear, nothing really to do with Cleopatra herself.
Zero connection. Like the others, it's much, much older than her reign. Over 1,000 years older. It's kind of a misnomer, really.
A catchy name that stuck, I guess.
Pretty much. This one and the one in London were originally a pair. They came from Heliopolis, which is near modern Cairo.
Okay, so what's the New York one like?
It's made of red granite, stands about 21 meters or 69 feet tall, and weighs around 224 tons. It was brought over and erected in Central Park in 1881.
So, relatively recent arrival in the grand scheme of its life. It must look quite striking there, an ancient Egyptian thing surrounded by the park and the city.
It really does. It's that contrast again, you know? Ancient world meets the modern metropolis. Creates a real sense of time travel almost.
Yeah, I bet. Okay, you mentioned its twin is still in Egypt, at Luxor.
That's right. Our next stop is Luxor, Egypt, to see the other Luxor obelisk, the one that stayed home.
So this is the twin of the one in Paris.
Exactly. They once flanked the entrance to the magnificent Luxor Temple. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site now, while its sibling went off to Paris.
This one stayed put.
Yep. Still standing guard right there at the temple entrance. It's pretty powerful to see it in its original setting.
I can imagine. It probably gives you a much better sense of the scale and grandeur of the original temple complex, seeing it like that.
Absolutely. It connects you directly to ancient Egypt in a way that seeing it moved somewhere else, however impressive, maybe doesn't quite capture.
Right. Okay, staying in Egypt, where next?
Let's head towards Cairo, to Heliopolis, to see the Heliopolis obelisk.
Heliopolis. That sounds familiar. Didn't the New York Needle come from there?
It did, yes. This is another one from that ancient city, and this one's special.
How so?
Well, like some others, it was originally part of a pair, but its twin is long gone. This red granite obelisk, standing about 67 feet tall. It's considered the oldest standing obelisk in all of Egypt.
The oldest one still standing. Wow, how old are we talking?
We're talking deep antiquity. Just imagine the history it's seen. Dynasties rising and falling. Incredible.
That's really something. The oldest survivor. Okay, almost done with our tour.
Yeah.
Back to Rome.
One last trip to Rome. It really is the city of obelisks. This time, we're going to the Piazza del Popolo to see the Flaminio obelisk.
Flaminio. Okay, another Egyptian one.
Yes, another monolithic giant shipped over from Egypt. This one's about 24 meters tall, but with its base, it reaches over 46 meters. Quite imposing.
And where was this one originally placed? Not Circus Maximus again?
Actually, yes. It was also in the Circus Maximus. It was brought to Rome even earlier than the Lateran one, back in 10 BC.
So Circus Maximus must have been quite the sight, with multiple giant obelisks.
Imagine. But like the Lateran one, it also had a bit of bad luck.
Don't tell me. It fell over and got buried, too.
Afraid so. It was found broken right alongside the Lateran obelisk, actually, in 1587. Then it got moved to its current home in Piazza del Popolo.
Man, those Renaissance posts are busy digging up obelisks.
They certainly were keen on reclaiming these symbols of antiquity. Okay, one final stop on our tour.
Where's number 10?
We're heading back to Africa, but south of Egypt this time, to Axum. in Ethiopia, the Obelisk of Axum.
Axum, Ethiopia. Okay, is this one Egyptian too?
No, this one is Axumite. It's about 1,700 years old, made of granite, stands 24 meters tall, and weighs around 160 tons.
And does it look like the Egyptian ones?
Similar basic shape, tall and tapering, but with some really unique features. It's not just a plain pillar. It actually has decorations that look like windows carved all the way up.
Windows.
Yeah, and two false doors carved right at the base. It feels more deliberately architectural, less purely monumental than some of the Egyptian ones.
Huh. That sounds really different. Interesting to see how the form was adapted.
Exactly. It shows how the idea spread, but different cultures put their own spin on it, their own symbols.
What a journey. From DC to Rome, Paris, Buenos Aires, Egypt, Ethiopia. Quite the global spread.
It really is amazing when you line them up like that.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the big picture takeaway for you?
I think it's got to be just how ancient and enduring these things are. They pop up across the globe, across millennia. They represent these huge engineering efforts, incredible journeys.
Yeah, the moving them alone is staggering.
Right, and they just last. Plus, that whole Cleopatra's Needle thing is fascinating.
Oh yeah, the fact that they're so much older than her, it really makes you double check those popular history names, doesn't it?
Totally. It's one of those aha moments, like you said earlier. Dig a bit deeper, and the story changes. These aren't just rocks. They're packed with history, with movement, with stories.
Absolutely. So maybe for you listening, the next time you see an obelisk, whether it's one of these famous ones or maybe a smaller local one,
Pause for a second.
yeah, just take a moment. Think about that impulse, that human desire across so many different times and places to build something tall, something pointing upwards, something permanent.
What have these things witnessed? Standing silent for centuries or even millennia.
It's a pretty mind-bending thought to end on. What stories could they tell? Thanks for taking this tour of awesome obelisks with us.